wonderful people who assist me and make me look good. Thank you for Mr. Alan Pick, who is a partner with us. And thank God for Miss Jerry Mitchell and Hugo, who is on the way. Those are the three leaders in this group. And we have Mr. Culbertson, who's going to be our special guest this evening that will be presenting. And want to thank God for each and every one of you as we continue in this series of God, money, and me. And I understand I was missing last week because I had another engagement in New York City, but I'm back this week, and I'm grateful and thankful. I'm expecting for us to have a wonderful time, as I understand that last week was a very exciting time, and yes, the room was full. And I could have charged to get people here, but thank God we'll keep it free. So just as we get ready to move forward with no further delay, at this time, Alan, I ask you to come forward and we will continue to move forward. Welcome, and let's get engaged and let's learn some things as we learn about economic empowerment, financial literacy, and we grow in our knowledge when it comes to our finances.
Baptist, you want to start us out with prayer?
Oh, that's right. And let me open up with the prayer. We ask, most gracious and loving God, that you would bless us and bless this time together. We just ask, Lord, as our presenter tonight, Mr. Culbertson, comes forth and shares, and those of us here will gain as we drink from his well of knowledge, that you would bless us. We thank you that you have given us the vision to move forward, and may each and every one of us continue to grow and continue to prosper. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Amen. All right.
What an amazing time it is to be starting a class on economics in these times. You know, and I've said before, if you take the history class, you can switch to the end of the book and find out who won the war. Mm-hmm. When you're taking an economics class, and especially in the time we're in right now, we have no idea who's going to win that war, the trade wars that might be coming, that nobody knows what's going to happen to our investments. Nobody knows what's going to happen to the economy in this country. And we get to take a look at it close up and to help us prepare for it. Our guest tonight is my good, close friend. Most of you know that I'm a retired lawyer and one of my favorite clients. How long ago did we start together? 40 years?
I would say so.
And we had some tough cases, but we won them all.
Certainly did.
Yeah. And it was a great pleasure. It's been a great pleasure being Brad's close friend and compatriot and partner as we move forward. Brad will tell you himself more about it. Well, the other thing I want to tell you, so Brad is a very successful businessman. He's not so crazy about public speaking, am I right?
Yeah.
So we need to be kind to Brad. Once he gets talking, he's a very funny guy. He's very interesting, but we'll just need to maybe coax him along a little bit. That's okay with you? So here's what I'd like you to do. First, start out, talk about a subject that you know very, very well, which is Brad Culbertson. Who's Brad Culbertson, and tell us something. Not to the business yet. Talk about your background, who you are, and your experience, and your education, and stuff you did before you got into the business you have now. So I understand you're from Panhandle, Florida.
Well, okay. My mother and father were from North Dakota and Minnesota. I'm trying to formulate these thoughts, and I want to look at people in the eye, and they're sort of like, how do you do this?
I think the easiest for us would be if you stood up. You know?
I was afraid you'd say that, okay. I've been having some issues with my knee a little bit, but I think I'm all right here.
Okay.
Anyhow, they were originally from North Dakota, Minnesota. And I was raised primarily in the South, mainly Florida. I've lived in Pensacola, Panama City, Marietta, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and Key West. Okay. My father worked in the military. My mother taught school, first in the lower grade, and then later she became a professor. She got a PhD, I think it was in education, and a master's in history. And her last job was she was in charge of all the extensions of Cambridge University. My dad was a Navy pilot. He was also an instructor in the lighter than aircraft, that is blimps, in helicopters, and jet planes, single engine, twin engine. He flew blimps off the coast of California in the war, and he also, when he got out of the military in the late 40s, he became a civilian contractor for the military. So he would go to different bases, and he would teach these students, foreign students mainly, how to fly. And of course, when you get people from foreign countries that come in to fly for their military, you get some of the best people that they have. And those people are usually young guys, they're eager, very nice. And they would, I'm not even talking about my family. And they would come over to our house, and they're lonely, you're in a small town, and they would entertain us with all kinds of different food and stories and everything else. That was a good background.
When you say it's a good background, what traits do you think that when you see how you succeeded in what you're doing, what traits do you think that you got from your mother and father that would help you?
I was just working on that.
See, you know what you're doing.
Don't set that out. Okay. Anyhow, so we learned, we learned to all kinds of different people from all kinds of different cultures. We basically took people at face value. And like my mother and father prided themselves in going anywhere in the world and not able to speak the language and get along fine with people. Because sort of, if you will, an American version of Marcel. And they would just understand everybody about everything. That's it. And my father was a Golden Gloves boxer, so they didn't have to worry about going anywhere. And my mother was real keen on learning about people, so that's what they did.
You're fine. If people start throwing tomatoes at you, I start to worry. But I don't think that would happen.
And I enjoyed very much many things about being raised in the South. But my parents brought us up their way. And on my 13th birthday, my mother asked me what I would like to eat if I'm living in the South so much and visiting people at their homes and the schools there. I said, I would like some fried chicken. And she said, okay, but don't ever ask for it again. I'll do for you one birthday for 13, but don't ask again. So it's a kind of, I was living in a different world, and they love tennis, and they love hiking, and they love swimming. They weren't into football. Okay? So we got kind of a mix of things going on here, and we moved a lot, and counting my own as I became older, I figured I lived about 20 different places. And,
There's a nickname called Are You an Army Brat?
That's it. You got the idea, right? And, every place that we went to was home while we were there. Okay, and I had a lot of good experiences. Never really bonded very much with kids because we were never had that long ago. But we moved around quite a bit, and so anyhow, I moved out. It was what should I say? It was in the '60s, and I'm a young man, and so at first, as soon as I could afford it, I got a motorcycle and went on my own and got out of there. And that's how I went up with you.
Well, that is, so the business you're in now, you started out by being a salesperson in that business.
I started off as a salesperson. I did a count one time, and I've had about 40 or 50 jobs, okay? And I would write it in time, and sales was some jobs.
So you're a good salesperson.
I think so.
Yeah, and what characteristic that you had made you a good salesperson?
Well, when I was growing up, people would always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it took long to do that, I thought. But anyhow, firemen, policemen, this, that, whatever. Nobody ever said businessman. Never heard of it, okay? Never heard of it, okay? And I wound up going into sales for this office supply company. And at that time, the world was really changing. And you gotta remember that the handheld calculator was not invented until after we went to the moon. Okay? 25, 30 years ago, the UPS truck had more computing power than the Apollo 13. Okay? And so you came out with big pens, big deal. Copiers, practically unheard of. They started, and that's what I'm making a little diversion here. The business, how I got into this was through the office supply thing, and copiers were coming out. Now, they had kind of a rinky-dink type of copier that worked off of liquid about after the World War II. But the first copier to come out that really worked, the new thing, was the Xerox 914. That thing was 3.5 feet wide, by 3.5 feet tall, by 4.5 feet long, weighed 650 pounds.
Oh.
Okay, all right, and it came equipped with a fire station, because we regularly catch on fire. As a matter of fact, what's his name, the Ralph Nader?
Yeah.
The guy who, about the Corvair, the unspeed, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I'll fill the blanks later, everybody. Yeah, he complained 3 times in Washington. He complained to the safety department in Washington, D.C., 110, that 3 times in 2 months, his machine caught on fire, And then he had the start of the copier business. And after that, but at the same time, all these things were coming in, the computers later, and the printers, and the copiers. It was nuts. It was really a golden opportunity. Because so many technologies, so many things going. If you just pick the right company in the right place and situation, it wasn't that hard to sell. No, I mean, it was raining opportunities. And I remember back to the copier conventions that I used to go to, they would get 50,000 people. And it was like the birds and the bees are there, and it was like just every kind of character you can imagine, fast talking, quick acting people, serious businessmen, entrepreneurs, kind of shady characters. It was just a potpourri of people selling stuff. It was really easy to do a good job because all this technology is coming out.
So we've talked about it here. Is an entrepreneur who's somebody who starts and runs a business. And to be a successful entrepreneur is that one needs to recognize opportunities and act on them.
And sometimes the entrepreneur.
Say what?
Sometimes the entrepreneur. So
Your opportunity to seeing all these new machines coming up,
right,
and that somebody had to supply them,
right,
supplies
right,
to go with them.
right.
And I presume it was like the Wild West.
It was.
I mean,
Literally, yes. You got a question?
I was gonna ask what's the business? Like,
What's the business?
yes, well.
My business, okay, good question. There were many different types of stuff in the office supply thing, and the copiers I mentioned to. But mine was strictly for copiers. You have printers and you have copiers, and for the copiers, I supplied the toner cartridge that goes in there. Now, there's copiers that have inkjet, liquid, and then there's dry copiers. And the dry copiers use toner cartridges. Now, you take that, for many years, the machine had a fusion unit, a drum unit, and then a toner cartridge. Later, fast forward up until not too many years ago, for smaller models, they would combine the two in one, and supposedly the throwaway thing until someone came up with the idea of recharging and refilling and that kind of stuff. So what I do is I bring in large amounts of the toner.
This is just a better
Am I
thing.
getting
So this
that?
is, no. So you started out in that business by being a salesperson,
Right,
and now you have your own company.
right,
And that's what you're describing now.
right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and so through all these meetings and experiences, I got to know some Japanese people quite well. Okay, now virtually almost all of the copiers, with the exception of Xerox, come out of Japan. Virtually all of the toners, except for those made by the OEM. And the OEM is an original equipment manufacturer, meaning it's like Ricoh and Canon and Sharp and some others. Okay, Konica Minolta. Those are what we call OEMs. They make the copiers and they sell their toner for it. Okay, now in the Japanese culture and economy, quite often they hire subcontractors to make certain things like our people would. So they hire toner people, manufacturer, outside of their own, to maybe make a smaller project or whatever toner. And those people make toner. But those people, you know, they have this expensive machines I'm making for this contract. They can't make that same toner for somebody else, but they can make the other kind, the competitor's toner, and they just gotta find someone to sell it to. And where I came in is that they're very close society in that respect. They all kind of know each other, okay? And they don't want to be confrontational. So they're not gonna, Ricoh's not gonna go out and say, by the way, you know, I'm gonna sell Canon toner, anybody want to put me?
So you're the
And
middle.
Canon's not gonna go out and say, I want to sell Ricoh toner. So they want to filter it through somebody where they can kind of like not offend somebody, because who's ever making it wants to stay in good terms with the other manufacturers. So where I came in is I got the confidence that they could sell me whatever other kind that they have, and I would sell it here, okay, and not create any waves.
So you would import it, they would.
I would import it, which I still
to
do.
you in the United States. And so you had a network of suppliers
Right?
in Japan and then
Right.
later in Taiwan,
Yeah.
I guess. And then you would get that over here, and then you would sell it to people who use toner here. Either retailers
Right.
that had stores that sold.
Let me help you out here.
Okay.
Okay, we don't sell retailers. Okay, we don't sell even wholesalers, we can avoid it. We sell distributors, and these distributors usually do significant business in other countries, such as Mexico. So we sell a lot into Mexico through distributors. We sell a little bit to Europe through distributors. We sell a lot to the United States through distributors. Then they sell it to the dealers, and they sell it, then the dealers, they might sell it on the internet, they might sell it to whomever. But basically what we do, is my concept was, you know, is you take a lesson from World War II, when in World War II, you got all these factories making stuff. And you got all the soldiers and stuff on the beach. And you gotta have the ducks get it in. It's the guys getting it to and from the manufacturer to the end user. You gotta have somebody bring it in. So what I did is I came up with a series of things where we would bring in these large amounts and we would fill it into cartridges, and package it nicely, and then we provide it to distributors. Because the manufacturer is not set up and would never be set up to sell directly to end users or distributors, because nobody can, they don't do that kind of thing. They're make lots and lots and lots of profit. That's all they want to do, okay? And the distributors down here, you know, insofar as a light manufacturing, you know, they can't handle all the different machines and expenses of the employees and everything to assemble, package, and do this stuff. So I'm the guy in the middle, okay? The guy in the back of the boat, the engine guy, that's the manufacturer. The guy at the front of the boat, those are the distributors and the dealers, if you will. They know where they're going, they know where the customers are. They pay for the salespeople, and they do the work that they, whatever. And the manufacturer makes the total. I just put the red wire and the black wire together, that's all I do. Okay?
So let me ask you this. So first, what value do you bring to our country, to our economy, to the people that you deal with? What's the value of your company?
Well, the value of our company, is that people have these machines and they want an alternative toner. And therefore they can make copies for a less expensive thing. But also too, when these machines come off a contract on a lease, or they want to get a new machine, they want a toner for it. Now, a lot of you probably, some of you know, okay? Years ago, it was like brand loyalty insofar as what kind of gasoline you buy. They had really promoted. You never see a commercial anymore by Shell or any of those kind of, or Exxon. You don't see commercials anymore, with a tiger in your tank. You don't see it anymore because it's all blended away. But the thing is that there are a lot of people in Latin America who really need copies made. And they can't afford some of this stuff. And they need something for less. And that's the good news. The bad news is the Chinese have a tendency to make products that don't work very well. And here's where the rub comes in. You're going, okay, well, it doesn't work very well. The copy's kind of crappy, pardon the infringement. Okay, but then it hits you. Well, you've got a $25 cartridge, in theory, okay? And that the OEM would charge probably 60, okay? And when they work government buildings and stuff like that, they can do that. But with regular businesses paying $60 for a cartridge, or even if they got something special, 45, it's still, we can, through our distributor, they can buy it for $25, $20, almost half price, okay? The bad news is the Chinese come in and say, we can sell it for half and half, okay? Now, but the quality's not there. But the thing is that they were operating a whole different thing. Is that when you hire a salesman, a serviceman for $5 a day, he can fix machines all day if I have a toner. Okay, and that's the rub. Okay, so we really do have the best product on the market.
So how many businesses?
You can talk about my business.
This is fine. I'm not sure where it's going, but we don't need to know, because it's all interesting to me. So how many businesses in America you say don't use toner?
No.
None.
Well, I actually, funny you should mention that. Can I have an expression? Anybody? Okay. All right. If you ask somebody in the room, I want you to take off all the clothes. I want you to take off everything that I want you to take off everything that's not made by the government. All right. And what happens? You're faced with the naked truth. They don't make anything. Okay. And so this stuff goes to the government, goes everywhere.
So the stuff that's made in your case, Japan and Taiwan.
Well, the stuff that the cartridge that I'm bringing from Taiwan, there never has been a cartridge manufactured in the United States.
So if somebody, and everybody uses toner.
Except for the OEM, but I'm just saying, cartridge printing machine, okay, it's either made by the OEM or it's made in Taiwan or China, okay? But so all the cartridges we bring in are provided to people to an alternative source of business that never existed, okay? And all the toner that we bring in comes from Japan.
So if you use toner, and all businesses do, they all need a cartridge or cartridges.
Yes.
In order to use that.
Right.
And what you do is you supply an alternate source of supply, because if they have a Xerox copier and they don't want to pay Xerox prices for the toner, you could get them, which is essentially identical, and in many cases manufactured by the same people that manufacture a Xerox toner, and you can get the cartridges and you can get the toner and you get it to people cheaper.
Yeah. Chances are it's not made by the exact same people, but it's probably people who they may make Sharp and they make Xerox, and another one might make Xerox but not Sharp. In other words, they won't violate a contract that they have. Okay, but their expertise in making toner in the factory they have can't take it. Now the factories, they're really very tight-lipped about things. And I spent many years. It took me 5 years in certain cases to get people to sell it. Okay, I mean, every year we meet 3 or 4 times in business day, at a conference, and or the convention, 4 or 5 times a year. And I knew better than to say, please, I want you to sell me this. You just know this is not the time. You just be nice and cozy. You just wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you like that. And after five years, I've got a contract where Toshiba was providing this company, and this company went ahead and bought from me. Okay, unfortunately, this is where the way I always say, what happens with, the OEM, they don't mind, if old fighter runs around and scrap off the table. Okay, but you put a paw on the table, you're gonna get smacked. Okay, and so they said that Toshiba called them and they fly back to Japan. They have meetings with the people and said, here's the deal. We're not gonna sell you any more machines if you don't buy our token. You go, okay, all right, that's it. Game over.
So part of what you.
So you say off the radar.
Right. And so part of what you do is because of your experience of being brought up in a diverse community, and especially the way your parents did, is that you realize that you have to deal with, say, Japanese businessmen in ways that would be different than dealing with American businessmen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is true, and I've sold in Europe, and I've sold, stuff goes to Germany and Russia, or the Middle East and stuff like that. It is basically, I mean, I go anywhere in the world and talk about toner, and I don't need the language. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, and but there are certain things. I mean, some of the really biggest manufacturers in the world that are in this situation, they don't want to, and some don't sell to Europe because they nickel and dime on the death and all kinds of rules. They're always coming back and saying, well, you can't have this chemical, that chemical, whatever. And I've got big companies in the United States, that supply people all over the world, I know. And they said, we just give up on Europe. They're not worth the trouble. They're high maintenance. It's like the Meg Ryan thing, in the movie, there's 2 types, there's the low maintenance, the high maintenance, which kind of you? Oh, you're the worst kind. You're high maintenance, you think you're low maintenance.
So your products get made in Japan
Yes.
and Taiwan,
Yes.
right? So how important would you think those relationships are to keep close?
I think people.
How important do you think your relationship with those countries are?
Well, my relationships are fine. But it's where the United States.
As far as just period, how important do you think keeping a close, tight bond with them?
Yeah. I mean, there are friends. I mean, there are friends, But I have to admit that sometimes, it doesn't. I know a lot of different people overseas. I don't know what news work they're listening to, but their image of us sometimes is like, what kind of movie you've been watching? No. I mean, they get news that's been filtered out or missed up. And I have good English friends. You think they're kind of in tune with our culture more. It's like, no, that's not the way it is. And that's why. Our news media and the European news media, they just do with whatever they want to do. There are no reporters anymore. It's always journalists, who kind of interpret their way. And so I have a very good friend in New Zealand, and he's what we call a mixer. Okay, this is the guy, he comes over here and he insists, he's got dual citizen. He insists on wearing his Trump hat everywhere we go. Okay. Which, okay, all right, fine, okay. Anything like that. But he likes kind of stir people up and have conversation. Okay. And when he tells me in New Zealand, he gets these negative comments. The people, neighbors of his, okay. But he loves telling me that when he's on a cruise ship, anywhere he goes, which he loves to do, or he's going to take a trip, he's always getting thumbs up no matter where he goes. And so it's kind of interesting that the news overseas has always treated Americans differently than they do the American public, I think.
So just to follow up on Dimitri's question.
Did I miss something?
No, what I was to say is, so your relations with these people in the different countries, the ones you do business with, gives you a competitive advantage.
Absolutely, because, for example, that's one of the reasons I was late here today, because, one of them, they got hold of me, just before, today's Friday morning, over there. And they got hold of me and said, well, basically, we understand what's going on, and we know things are gonna work out. And those 3 containers that we have on the way to you, whatever the charge, don't worry, we'll take care of it, and we'll work this out later. Yeah, well, I was right.
So if somebody if the BD decided that he wanted to get in your business and compete against you, he would have a competitive disadvantage because you built up this relationship over the years. And you're friends with these people and they know they can trust you. And they know you're gonna be honest, and when you say something's gonna get there, it's gonna be getting there. So somebody else trying to do this doesn't have the relations that you have.
Essentially correct. I don't want to be braggadocious or anything, but this is essentially correct because I have never filled out a credit application with anybody. They have no information on me other than my name, my business. There's no guarantees, no nothing, ever. And we're talking about, I ordered something in the 7 figures, and there's no, we just go out our business.
Okay, so considering your good relationships with people overseas in different countries, I heard that you mentioned Trump. How is, with everything going on, how are you guys communicating right now?
How
He's communicating with his customers?
Yes, how are your business partners communicating right now regarding the tariffs?
Let me get this other stuff out of the way and then we'll get to that.
I can answer real quickly.
What?
I can answer.
Sure. Yeah, but we're gonna go into it more deeply.
Well, okay. Last week when all this stuff was going on, I was like, here we go again, and you got COVID, you got this meltdown, here we go again, and I was, oh, God. And they called me, and I said, the Brits had a really good expression in the beginning of World War I. They say, stay calm, can carry on. And we had some overseas customers, as well as some domestic customers, and even some of my suppliers were borderline freaking out. I was fine until that happened. Then I got mad, okay? Because I'm going, and so one of my Japanese suppliers, one of my biggest ones, called me about that. I said, listen, James, just have a nice weekend. Come back Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, it'll be a different story. Okay, this is just the opening act. Just calm down. Okay, don't worry, it'll take care of itself. I said, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, they almost had one plane kind of set things off, and they made a movie borrowing from that. Okay, and John Kennedy said, there's always some SOB who doesn't get the message, who's up there flying around, stirring up stuff. And the thing is that last week, I was perfectly calm and everything, but the thing is that somebody doesn't express themselves correctly, and does it too much, it gets amplified through aides, it gets amplified through the news media, and then it gets amplified overseas, and you go like,
What exactly are you talking about?
well, because what happened when they announced the tariffs.
Uh-huh.
A real calm person said, listen, we have a problem. You go out and you make a speech to the American public. Board here, this and this and this, and this is what we think we should do. In this case, it's getting pretty bad. And I want to educate the people on what's going on here and why we got a problem with this and this and this. And then you wait a little while, and then you go like that, and after a while, you say, okay, here's what we plan to do 90 days from now. Okay, you don't say we're doing it now, and the reason people are freaking out is very simple. When I order something, I have to order 6 months ahead. There's no backing down, there's no reducing, there's no paying later. It's coming. If I once I hang up that phone and send the thing, from 6 months from now, if you do it the day after tomorrow, too late, it's gone. Okay, so if that thing goes out and it comes in with a 24% duty, and you don't make 24%, what does that tell you? If you wind up it's cost you 24%, and you're not making 24%.
So you just
You
lost
got
money.
6 months of inventory, you know, picture the Titanic. So that's why everybody was freaking out, because of the fact that all these businesses in the big box stores, they plan a year in advance.
Mhm.
So if they get all these duties put on there, okay, they're gonna eat it if they can't sell it. And that's what happened. And if you wanna get someone to do something, you know, you don't go out, if you wanna convince someone to do something, you don't go around saying, oh, you ripped us off and rah, rah, rah. No, whoa. Put the gun away. Just sit down for a minute, you know?
So following up on that, I know exactly, is that, to begin with, the criticisms of Trump that are going on now about his introducing these tariffs comes not only from Democrats, but comes, and you are, I don't think you say you're a Republican, but you tell.
I don't belong to any place.
Okay, but you voted for Trump.
Yes.
Okay, and that's, Tony said, you know, we need to talk to people that don't agree with us, and that's one of the reasons I wanted Brad to come. Who's very open-minded on a lot of stuff, but has different beliefs. But a lot of the criticism, I have a whole bunch of articles here, come from people who are Republicans. Karl Rove. Who was,
So that's a different animal. Okay.
yeah, I mean, he was a big Republican strategist and worked with President Bush, and just wrote an article today in the Wall Street Journal in which he criticized not so much what Trump is doing, but what you're talking about. It's the way he's going about.
Well, the thing is, my summary is, you know, is that in regards to our president, you know, it's a fundamental understanding that you drive a bus differently than you drive a car.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Period. Okay? And that's it, you know? You know, just, you know, I mean, okay.
But let me ask this, so, and I'll get some of this, so part of it, in order for you to be in your business, you have to understand international trade, you have to understand tariffs, because you import stuff from overseas, you export it to other places, and in terms of planning your business, you were expecting some stability.
Well, you have to have some stability because in order, if you're dealing, you know, I'm a small potato compared to other people in the business that, you know, the OEMs even say, okay? But I do okay, all right? But the thing is that, you know, you have to commit to sums of money way in advance of getting it. You're sticking your neck out there. My kids actually gave me a poster with Michael Jordan, okay? And on that thing it said, well, you know, I have lost this many games, I've missed this many shots, and I've let my team down here so many times, and at the bottom he says, and that's why I succeed. You know, and that's the truth. Sorry.
So what you're saying, trying to show us, is that in business, right? You're either gonna be relational or transactional. And in order for, because Trump is transactional, and you seem to be more relational. And in sales, people do business with people because they like something about that person.
All my relationships are
It's based on.
okay, I'm not gonna say this is business. No, and that, as a matter of fact, when I started my business, and there's some people that I've dealt with, you know, I mean, every one of them, all my customers started with me, you know, maybe only $1,000 or $2,000 a month. Now, virtually all of them, some of them, you know, you say that horse will never run, okay? But some of them, most of them are doing much more, because I supported them, okay? And I tell them, I told them, I said, no, and I gave, you know, I do things really kind of unprofessional business like in the world, okay? Do it my way, okay? And my way is that I sit down and have a little talk with them and said, will you tell me how much you think you can do? Okay, tell me what you can do. I said, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. How much do you think you can do? No. Well, okay, but you want a good price, right? I'll tell you, I'll give you my best price, the lowest price I have, okay? And you can go out there, and if you don't make X amount of money, I know it's not my fault. Okay, and I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna give you a few rules, and this is exactly what I would tell you. Number one, I'm gonna give you special pricing. But if you're attacking another customer with my special price I'm giving you, I don't know you anymore, okay? Number two is that, I have to be paid too. So if you don't pay us on time, if you don't pay us within 30 days, we're gonna tell you about it after 2 weeks. And after 30, if you're at 60 days, we're not gonna ship you. And if it gets to 90 days, you're toast. We're coming after you. I'm coming after you, okay? And then, the other one I give them, which, I don't know, I like movies, so I had to always use it, I like movies, pick up myself, okay? And I said, let me explain something. If you go out of business, I'll feel sorry for you, okay? And I'll do what I can to help you, okay? Your wife may leave you, okay? Your wife may leave you, your dog may run away, but you're okay. I really did that, I'm sorry.
I just need to understand. So you're telling me that no company, no United States company produces toner cartridges?
Only for the OEM.
Only for the
In
OEM?
other words, Ricoh always makes that cartridge. Now, when I say makes a cartridge, they may assemble the parts there, or they may get them from Japan. I don't. But the OEMs only make for the OEMs.
Right. So what I'm trying to understand is if everything is being basically shipped into this country, right? And all the small businesses, medium businesses, and large businesses are receiving their products from overseas, these tariffs affect everyone equally. Would you say that?
That's correct, unless it's made here in the United States. But if some of those parts are made overseas so they can assemble them, they'd probably be paying tariffs, So
Right.
I don't know how they split that, but basically when it comes to copiers and cameras, it's like this. Okay?
So there's someone, I'm asking this question because I'm trying to understand the margins, right? So are your margins robust enough to be able to handle a 24-25% tariff?
Absolutely not.
So
That would put us out of
so
business.
if you're the middleman and you're supplying to other smaller
Right,
businesses,
right.
and your margins are very shallow,
Yes.
that means those businesses that you're supplying are very shallow as well. That means a lot of jobs are being threatened by this. Would you
Yes.
say that?
In addition to that, don't forget, these are the distributors who
Right.
supply dealers, who have salespeople and servicemen and other things, and they ship overseas. A lot of our stuff goes not directly from us to Mexico, it goes indirectly through distributors, and they have contacts in Latin America like we do. Okay, so the thing is that 24% duty would wipe it out. And sitting on the side, drooling are the Chinese, because what they'd like nothing better for our products to be 24% more effective, because they'll be able to go ahead somehow get into the market because they'll sell the stuff below the cost. In fact, I actually had customers from South America and Mexico contacted us the other day worried about that. And one of them actually said, they're just, the Chinese are just waiting for our stuff to be 24% more expensive. They already offer probably 20 to 30% less than us.
So this is what I'm hearing. You say, you're telling me that China benefits from our tariffs.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if that is a fact,
On this product, yes.
on this product or any product for that matter.
Well, it's hard to say because I don't know the whole game. What I mean is, I don't know who's buying and selling it, but when it comes to copiers, toners, and cartridges, everybody who makes a copy or is in a copier-related business, it's gonna cost them money or it's gonna cost them jobs or both.
Well, I can't imagine that your particular product is mutually exclusive. I'm sure it's happening in other industries as well.
Well, true, but, but on my little piece of turf, we got a snake coming up the water,
Okay, so I'm not gonna ask any more questions because I can see Alan wants to
Yeah, I know.
shut me down, but we're gonna continue that
Well,
strain.
that's fine because I've never bought or done business with people in China. I have nothing against them. I've met a lot of nice people. And when I was over there, the week after they opened the skies from 9/11, I was over there with my mom. Okay, that's a whole different line of story. But I couldn't get over how many people keep giving us condolences.
Okay,
Yeah, it was really, really heartbreaking.
I've just got a question.
Yeah, so do you think that it is, the business owners and the entrepreneurs, well, really more the larger business owners, who are the cause of the reversal? Or, Trump just made a reversal on his unusual business taxes. Do you think that that's or hold? Do you think that the business owners are the ones that are in his ear saying, hey, don't do this, and that's why it's changed? And do you think that's enough, second part, do you think that's enough to kind of give a little more stability, or do you think that?
Oh, yeah, you saw it working this week. Oh, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm small potatoes in the scheme of things, just in our industry, all right? And, there's people out there, I've gone through some of these political things where, the heavy hitters are there, whatever. I said to myself, okay, I let the big dogs fight it out, we'll straighten it out, okay? They'll because, it's, I said to myself, oh, God, and I said, why does he have to do that? Because it's gonna come around, and sure, as you said, he did a 180.
He did.
And I told you he would.
But I don't know if that's enough to stabilize the market, because people don't know, as a business owner, you don't know if it's gonna do it yet.
That's exactly the point that I was trying to lead to, right? It is that market stability. I'm a financial professional.
Okay.
So some of the phone calls I get are regarding some of the instability
I
that
can
you
well
see in the market
imagine,
right now.
yeah.
So you got people who have retirement plans
Yeah.
that they have retirement numbers that are being completely blown out of the water.
Correct.
Right.
It's scary, it's very scary. In fact, we don't know how bad it's gonna get. Eventually, it'll get over, eventually it'll improve, eventually you all die too. So I want to be before that happens,
So I gotta ask, I would not be me if I don't ask this question.
Ask when,
Before the election, could we have predicted this?
they softballed it. Because I was surprised by some of the figures they demonstrated, how much they're charging for this, that, But it is true that the United States and our political people and parties, they allow the Chinese to just, hate to use the word, rip us off for many years and undermine our industries. And I'm not doing this because some political person saying so. I saw it happen, okay? All right? And
you can't have a fight without having someone to fight with. So you're telling me that China was solely responsible for everything that's been going on for decades?
insofar as the tariff imbalances, as far as the tariff go, yeah, they're pretty much pretty much the biggest bad guy in the house. They're not, the Europeans. I'm sorry.
We can never witness this.
Oh yeah, sure.
We're a country of consumers. That's why.
Well, I'll end it. Never bet against America.
I never will.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran. I never will.
The thing is that, you never know where these things are going to end and how they're going to end. Okay, but eventually, it'll right itself. This thing will right itself. The thing is how do we get by in the meantime? How do we get by in the meantime?
I just want to add, I'm going to add to what she was talking about. And you're a businessman. You said that you're able to have deals with people where you don't even have contracts, and you'll do $1 million deal without having that background, without having. So it's about relationships. In business, relationship with life and everything, it is about relationships. In my opinion. And so if you think things of long-term relationships in business and health, you want to be able to trust people when you do a deal with them.
Right.
And I see that's sort of an issue right now. What can you trust and not trust? And to me, a successful businessman is that it's all about your relationship.
That's it. I don't care whether it has to do with product or bills or whatever. The thing is, I protect my reputation to the end. I'd rather pay someone, if there's a doubt about something, I take care of it. Our complaint rate is not even 0.001%. We ship thousands of cartridges a week, and on the average, maybe 3 may have a problem. You know, they probably ran into each other in the garden, I don't know. But we have virtually no, we have the best, our motto is, okay, our motto is, first of all, ship or die, okay? Okay. So we have good service, okay? And number two is I often tell my suppliers, you give me your best product always. Always. Always, okay? I am the customer service department. I don't want to talk to anybody.
I mean, you're only as good as your word, really.
I tell you the truth, there was a time in my life when things went kind of sour, you know, met the wrong person for the wrong reason, blah, 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 okay? And you know, when you got a boat full of rats, the best time it's sink shipping, you know, swimming, okay? And, but I paid everybody. You know, and that was a long time ago, you know? Making money isn't that hard. It's hanging on to it, it's the hard part.
You know what, Alan said you were shy. I don't think so.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's all about relationship, because a good salesperson can sell anything because you sell yourself first. You sell your integrity, your honesty, and your word first, and then you sell the product. Product will sell itself.
And you know what? We had no salespeople. And the reason we had no salespeople? Because the product sells itself. Because you can have all the glossy brochures you want, you have all the presentations, you have a great price, and the Chinese are real good at that, okay? They are really good at that, okay? All right?
But the product can't sell unless they give you the deal to sell.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they do that because of the relationship they have with you.
well, what happens is, what does it is that, you know, I always said to myself, we don't need salespeople. We have the best product on the market, and the right people get it, they'll tell a friend, okay?
Word of mouth.
That's better than anything. That's better, because when this business started, many deals in the United States, the dealer network, I gotta tell you, in the beginning when this business started, oh my God, I mean, you can do drugs, you can have gotten arrested, you can be dressed like a bum, and you go to one of these conventions, you better not mention the fact that you sold generic color. It was a lynching event, okay, it really was. And you had to pretend, no, you didn't sell generic color because they were like this, nothing other than OEM. Eventually, they all started changing their mind because they found out that they save 25 to 30%, okay? And they make money and stuff would work. But in the meantime, other people made them feel like, you know, we don't want to try this because the stuff will work, won't do good. Well, our stuff is that all the people that I sell came to us because someone recommended it. We have never sold, ever since I started this business, I haven't sold anybody.
Word of mouth is always the.
That's it, because you know, I'll finish off, please. I'm sorry, you know.
I was gonna compliment you.
That's okay. But you know, it's very simple, how it works. And guys in Chicago and New York, you know, they said, they called me or somebody, and somebody tried to say, look like the toner. Then they called Fred, they met, say in Idaho, and they met at a convention in Atlanta, and they're talking about one kind of deal to another kind of deal. Wow, you don't tell the truth. I bought stuff here, and for my contracts, I use this stuff. You know, it works fine, and everybody's happy. Save money. Is that right? Yeah, okay, fine. All right, that's how it works. That phone call will be more than if you sent 4 people in there with all the presentation guarantees, discounts, and certain stuff.
I've always found it easier to tell the truth.
Well, yeah. And you know what? You don't have to rely over your shoulder. Well, better than that, you have to remember what you said. Have to remember what you said.
There you go.
That's it.
So, I mean, I've had a lot of clients over my legal career, and a lot of clients that are not that trustworthy. As long as they pay their bills, it's okay.
Oh, I have a note on that. Hey, he won me a case. He won me a case against these guys who were really kind of like really thought they were slick. Okay? The bad thing about them is that they were Irishmen who drank when they called up harassing on the telephone. They say, so we use that against them, okay? And we got all said and done, you know, we won this case. And and they had to pay up and et cetera. He stood up and laughed in front of him and says, "Hey, Harry, hey, Danny, Brad's gonna enjoy living in your house." Okay, and so that was all said and done. You know, I got paid, okay. I mean, I think, I didn't get everything they took from me, but I got a nice bit of it back. I think I'm stealing stuff. I got that. But then later, he got this check, and he was missing some money. And I said, "Alan, it came up short." He said, "Yeah, well, I kept some of it because I thought I deserved the bonus."
He said, "That's great, you did agree with me." I will say, one of the things, and the reason that Brad suggested the way business to be done, selling toner, if you're been a business owner at all, you probably got calls from people who want to sell you toner over the phone. And they have to come up with these great sales. And everybody needs toner, and nobody really knew what it was, and nobody had any idea how much it cost. So if you get a good sales pitch, you can sell it even if it's very expensive. He doesn't need that sales pitch, because in fact, he sells it very inexpensive.
We have no salespeople. We have no customer service department.
You got no overhead.
Okay,
You got no overhead.
that's it, no, okay, that's it, yeah, it's very simple. I like to say, and I've used this before, but those who don't row.
So let me ask you a question, so now, and then we'll kind of wrap it up, I know
Yes.
we could go on
Good.
forever, but we have.
Well,
a
that's
special-
how it is.
Yeah, so what's your plans now? At this point, you don't know what's gonna happen,
Everything for it.
what, yeah?
When everything for it, I'll figure it out on the way down.
I mean, one of the things you need as an entrepreneur is you have to have plenty of confidence.
Mhm.
That people, a lot of people in their position would be freaking out. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't know what it's gonna be like in 90 days. You don't know what it's gonna be like in 6 months. You don't know if it's gonna be a year. I've been collecting a lot of articles and reading about what people think about what's going on, and a lot of people are projecting that because of what's going on now, there's gonna be a recession, which means a downturn in the economy, which means that people are gonna lose their job. They're not gonna be able to buy stuff. If that happens.
Yeah, if that happens, it's good for us.
Okay.
I mean, there's no downside to this thing. We just kind of ride the boat.
Well, let me ask you this, if in fact you no longer can get cartridges, if you no longer can get cartridges,
We'll get them.
okay, there you go.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, what after customers don't have a money to buy your car?
oh,
Because they're a little business and they gotta.
the thing is, the good businessmen know how to survive, and the good businessmen will be there, rain or shine. And some won't make it, okay? But I think that all this will work out because, overall, this whole thing is long in coming. It's been the thing that's been swept under the carpet for years. And the people swept under this carpet made it worse and worse and worse. It's like a little infection or something, you let it go and it gets worse, worse, worse. Okay, all right. The thing is that, generally speaking, in a national crisis, in a national thing, people should come together, support each other, and develop a will to win. And that's what it's all about. If you're gonna go like this, forget it, it's just, somehow or another, we'll pull through this thing. This is the third time in like 15 years, somebody in Washington DC and sort of like let the dog out, golly, what a mess, okay? And it's just, I liked it better when the news media was 5. News was 5. Okay. Be people trying to entertain you with the news.
So let me ask you one more question.
Yes.
Okay, which is, do you have any second thoughts about supporting Trump for president? Do you have some frustrations? Do you think that maybe somebody else should be president, or you're just willing to go with the flow?
Well, first, before you answer that, what sold you on him as a businessman? What sold you on him?
Well, it's like, let me put it like this. I never watched the TV show. Okay, that whatever, the firing thing or whatever.
Apprentice.
What?
Apprentice, yeah.
No, I've read his books, and I read the books of his other people that support him and the people that, I've read a lot of books about all these things, different characters. And I've been to these conventions and, you know, people, and a lot of these people in the news I've shaken hands with and whatever, okay? But, you know, yes, he's the president of the United States, but he's also an employee. And you don't fire an employee right off the bat and screws up, if you can. You try and get some sense into him.
Yeah, but you don't rehire him after he screwed up either.
There you go.
Well,
The employer.
no, we don't, but somebody does. But the thing is that, on this thing, he could have articulated better. He could have arranged it better. You know, I'm not a golfer. Okay, but I would say, what would he say or do if he was out there playing golf and they're like, there's the 18th hole and you take out that putter and you stick it in your putter. And what would he say if someone pulled a club out of there and about to hit it like that? And he goes, what the hell are you doing? You don't do that, okay? Now, as is the case of most people that you hire, they, you know, everybody's different. You know, generally speaking, I've got about 35 or 40 people work for me, okay? All right. And almost all of them have been with me anywhere 10 years on up. 10 to 20 something years, okay? But generally speaking, sometimes you get an employee, they just don't get it. And you have to kind of like call them to task on it and do whatever. Right now, he's being called to task.
Do you think that he would respond if someone tried to give him some kind of clarity on what he's doing right now?
That has been done. Huh?
That's why he reversed.
That's it. He did a 180.
Somebody called.
That's it.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. You gotta understand that 180 was not really him being pressed to do so. That's what he does. You know.
Well, you know, I see what you're saying. You're thinking this is his way of doing a deal.
Yes.
Okay. If that's the case, then bad on him. Okay. But I think he didn't think that far ahead.
I agree.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do right now. This is very important. And he's gonna be around and we're gonna have a break, a little social period here. That will be, well.
This is an economics class?
Yeah.
Right.
The person who is responsible for our being here today, it's his birthday.
He turns 21 today, right? 21.
So Brad has heard about this great singing in black churches. You've heard of the great singing in black churches, so we're gonna give him the Bel-Vue rendition of Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tony. Happy birthday to you.
One, I want to thank God for blessings that He has given me and continue to give me. I want to thank God for all of you who get to partake and to share in this great occasion of my birthday. My being present, you have already given me a present, all right? And I thank God. And I hope that each and every one of you has learned something today that you can walk away with, which will help you move forward financially and to build and leave a legacy that's worthwhile, not just only for your family, but a legacy that will go beyond your family and even to the world. I want to thank Mr. Culberson for coming here. Let's give him a hand. And I understand that, he talked about import and export, and I don't know all about that, so, Jennifer, I hope you took good notes. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm booked 2 times, tonight I'm booked actually 3 times, so that's why you haven't seen me present. I want to thank Alan, who basically, we were just in a conversation, and I don't know everything about economics, but I know that economics is important. When he said that he knew economics, I gave the pitch, and thank God that he said okay, and thank God, and that's how we've gotten here. Want to thank God for Jerry. Actually, Alan thought I was bringing Jerry here to the class, so he said, well, and you're going to be a part of it, and thank God. Now, she could have backed out, but she said, I am, and she came along. So I want to thank God for Jerry being so you go to the reception. All right, okay. Well, the boss said it's time for cupcakes and cut it short. All right. So let's enjoy the cupcakes. Okay, God bless you. All right. So Jennifer, tell the people you were in charge of cupcakes.
I'll just say, my son hard on him.
Young man. It's just a birthday. Don't touch the cake until after.
Okay, looks like we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. We're gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much for being on tonight. See you on Tuesday, April 15th. We're gonna be covering living benefits. So see you all soon. Take care. Nope.
Thank you, brother.